national park ranger for a week. Always wanted to go to California, Beach Boys, California girls. I wanted to be that. Grew up in the North Country. All I could think about was rollerblading on the pier, beach, blonde hair, tan. I'm like, yes, that is what I want. So I was working in Buffalo and just haphazardly one day got online and decided that I would apply for this national park ranger position, specializing in Native American storytelling. I absolutely love Native American stories. Don't have any heritage, but my dad did come into my 4th grade class once with a book and tell some amazing tales. So one day, Buffalo winter, I'm working a university grind, post-grad. I get a call. Hi, Elizabeth. We would, this is Colin from the National Park Service. We'd love to interview you, with your expertise about Native American storytelling and to come on out to the Santa Monica Mountains. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. So I send my dad a text. Do we still have that book from when you came into my class that time? Didn't hear back. My dad's not a big texter. So took the Skype interview, got the job. So I'm like, I'm going to California. So before I headed out there, it was a 4-month position from January till, summertime. I said, do I need a car? They were like, nah. And I'm like, okay, I'll bring my rollerblades. Perfect. So I fly out there. My dad and sister drop me off at the Syracuse airport. It's like blasting snow. I'm like, see ya. I'm heading to the West Coast. Touchdown and get picked up by a 20-year-old. I was 29. He was my mentor. So we're driving along Pacific Coast Highway. I see a long border. I'm like, yes, oh my God, this is it. So we're heading towards the ranch where we're supposed to be staying and everything, and it's like a 2-week training. So he stops at a grocery store, and he's like, do you need anything? I'm like, no, I'll just wait in the car. And he's like, what are you going to do for food? I was like, what do you mean? I thought it was like all included. He's like, no, like, you're going to need like groceries for the 2 weeks or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So I got some peanut butter, maybe some IPAs, I don't know. So then we show up at this ranch, and he goes, by the way, have you ever seen The Biggest Loser? I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, that's the ranch that we're staying at is where The Biggest Loser was filmed. Don't be alarmed if you see signs, memorabilia, the whole thing. Jillian Michaels, promotional stuff. So we go into the ranch, I get into the quarters. There's like 14 people. Since I was 29, I was in the older category, so my roommate was the only other older person. She was 43. We stayed up all night chatting about how she just didn't feel right, didn't feel comfortable. She needed her hair dyed pink. Could I help her out? I was like, well, I don't have a car, but let's get you some hair dye. I'll totally help you out. Meanwhile, I'm like, what am I doing here? This isn't the California I was imagining. So the next day, it was the weekend. I'm like having a couple scoops of peanut butter, trying to figure out what I'm doing. And also realized there's no shoulder on the Pacific Coast Highway at all. So there's going to be no rollerblading anywhere, really. So I'm like, I'm stuck at this Biggest Loser ranch, wandering around, being like, oh man, I see like a pull-up bar, I see like a Jillian Michaels sign. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, man, like I didn't bring that Native American storytelling book. And like, what are we gonna do? So one of the fellow people that was staying in the quarters or whatever was like, hey, I'm going to LA. Do you need a ride? I was like, yes. I think I know somebody in Venice Beach. So I text my friend. I'm like, hey, can I come visit you? Sure. So she's like, I'll drop you off like on the Santa Monica Pier. Now, when she meant she was gonna drop me off, she dropped me off on the side of the highway and was like, yeah, I can't drive into Venice. Traffic's too much. So I'm like, well, good thing I have my rollerblades. rollerblades. So I'm rollerblading from the Santa Monica Pier down to Venice Beach, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't that cool. Like, it's not really what I thought. Waiting for my friend. Meanwhile, I'm starving, absolutely starving. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll probably get dinner. My friend was like, we're going to go to this great comedy show. It's going to be awesome. I'm like, all right. So I wait and wait and wait, finally show up. 7 p.m., we're driving into LA, go to the comedy show, still no dinner. I'm watching this comedy show with this guy named Too Tall Paul, who's literally 7 feet tall, playing miniature instruments, and I am like holding my rollerblades in a Twilight Zone, being like, why, how? So then, still didn't get anything to eat. Go back to Venice, stay the night, whatever. The next morning, I'm like, I got to get out of here. I'm like, how do I get back up? I'm texting this girl who dropped me off, doesn't answer my calls. I'm like, oh, my God. He's like, have you ever used Uber? And I was like, no. So decide to do that. Get my first Uber ride with a guy named Tony who told me he hit rock bottom when he hit a guardrail and didn't realize he had hit it. And I'm like, was that before or after you became an Uber driver? So finally make it back up to the Santa Monica Mountains where this ranch is. It's dark by this time. There's a fence, and I'm like, of course I didn't write down the code, just like I didn't write down any of the tales I'm supposed to be an expert at telling. Scale the fence into the ranch, and I'm like walking through the ranch, and it's pitch dark. I've got my headlamp and my rollerblades. I see like a lone light in a window, and I go up and I tap the window, and I'm like, hi, I'm just wondering, like, where are those quarters that I'm staying at? Because I don't know the grounds yet. I'm still kind of new here. And he's like, well, you're gonna need that headlamp. Gets out an old golf cart. I'm standing in the passenger seat of this golf cart, shining my headlamp as he's weaving up this dirt road to these quarters. The next morning, I'm wandering around the Biggest Loser Ranch being like, I just can't quite get there. Can't quite get there. But I did get to keep the jacket. I feel like the Biggest Loser tonight. I couldn't find it. So that kind of makes me think, did this even happen? But so in my opinion, when it comes to the Beach Boys, East Coast girls are way more fun, and they're just as cool, and like, that's my story.